me see. Shit. This is our Alex. This is our last episode, probably with full free speech rights, or at least before they dramatically start declining.
Yeah. This is our last episode of what the politics as we currently know, and the Constitution still in place and all that stuff. As of now, when we record again, we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, not looking forward to it. I mean, well, we'll get into the press issues, but I mean, that's a fourth of the First Amendment. So, yeah, I'm not. Damn, it's gonna be rough. But anyway, let's get into it. So, and real quick, just a reminder to everybody: this is our first week of splitting our shows up. So we have our news show with news and discussion that we're gonna have right now. It's gonna go for about 30 minutes. And then towards the end of the week, probably releasing on like Thursday or Friday, we will have our Standing for Reason podcast show where we'll get more into what we can do to not only battle Donald Trump and his incoming administration that starts on the same day, or with that, and also just information about how to get involved with certain things, regardless of what the cause is. And I'm excited to get this one started. I think this is a good evolution for us.
Yeah. We talked about it being necessary, just changing the times. It's not as life's not as peachy as it was a year ago when we started up. So
Yep.
we got to get a little more serious, a little more involved into resistance, I guess, is the best.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. So that being said, what do we got for news?
So starting off, you mentioned you weren't really excited about the inauguration, and neither are Democratic politicians. So far, when we talked about it the other day, there was 25 politicians that were boycotting um, Trump's inauguration. When I checked today, that number jumped up to 33. So just a quick mention of some quotes by some of the more famous people that are boycotting. First, John Lewis. Obviously, we'll get into that. His spat with Donald Trump a little later, but he's number one. He's the biggest one. And one trend that I've noticed while I was looking up the different people that are boycotting is a lot of them go back to John Lewis and say, I stand with John Lewis. So he definitely is kicked, brought up a little shitstorm, and that's good. But first, Luis Gutierrez from Illinois. He actually he's been a very big, outspoken Trump guy. This one here, I could not look at my wife, my daughters, or my grandson in the eye if I sat there and attended, as if everything that the candidate said about the women, the Latinos, the blacks, the Muslims, or any of those other things he said in those speeches and tweets, and all that is okay or erased from our collective memory, he said on the House floor. So he's been, really big, outspoken guy against Trump, and I like his passion. I never really heard too much about him until I think his previous anti-Trump speech, but he speaks with a lot of passion, and I'm gonna have to do some research on Luis Gutierrez.
Yeah, I gotta be honest, and maybe it's just because I mean it's hard to keep track of all these old bastards that make up Congress. But I know his name, but I can't picture where I know it from. Um, but yeah, definitely probably somebody that deserves to be looked at, not because he's anti-Trump, but at least he's making a stand that I'm sure you're about to get into that some Democrats are not making.
Yeah. The next one is Barbara Lee from California. I did notice, I think about almost 10 of the 33 were from California. So shout out to my state there for
Yep.
leading the charge. She said, I will not be celebrating or honoring an incoming president who rode racism, sexism, xenophobia, and bigotry to the White House. I will be organizing and preparing for resistance. So I wrote that one down because I like that. I mean, that's pretty much what the people that are in this. You gotta hunker down and get ready for a fight because that's what's coming.
Yep.
And the last one, Jared Nadler from New York um, tweeted, "The real Donald Trump stands with Vladimir Putin. I stand with John Lewis." This guy, the reason why I brought him up is because he published a manual called "How We Resist Trump and His Extreme Agenda." So I got some homework to do. I'm gonna have to check that out. But that's Jerry Nadler, and he wrote a manual called "How We Resist Trump and His Extreme Agenda." So,
Sweet.
yep. So we'll see. I mean, that's it's coming up here soon.
Yeah, but
Uh,
we got some people that are. I mean, this is in any other circumstance. I mean, you would call it honorable that they're still going to attend even after everything Trump said about him. I think in any other arena, you would think that's good sportsmanship. But we learned that the Clintons and the Bushes will be attending this inauguration.
yeah, I mean, I'm not sure if it how much tradition it has to do with past presidents being there, but yeah, I mean, definitely the wounds are still fresh, so that is does make it a little more interesting. But then again,
You think Hillary Clinton's grown a full beard by now? Maybe.
it's possible. So, moving on. So, despite what you've heard about the GOP trying to repeal Obamacare and all that stuff, I have some good news. They do care about your health. Did you know that?
I Wait.
So,
Was this whole thing a riddle?
no, yeah, okay. So they recently introduced the Hearing Protection Act. That sounds good, right? The Hearing Protection Act. It's
Is
like,
this
oh shit.
for the hearing impaired?
No, no, this is to save the hearing of the everyday American. They care about us and these important issues.
Oh, they're looking out physically for our ears.
Yeah, for our ears, yes.
Oh, that's
And
nice of them. How are they doing that?
so so these guys, they've looked at all the dangers that the everyday American faces,
I love the way you're presenting this. This is
and
awesome.
they decided that we need to introduce a law to make it easier to buy silencers or suppressors for handguns.
All right, hold on. I have a question. So you were in charge of this article. I didn't read into it. You did. So let me ask this. Was this were you exaggerating just now, or was this really a thing? Like,
No, this is the angle that they took.
no, no, hold on. Wait,
This
hold the fuck up. Hold on. They actually said that they're passing this law in order to protect, hearing issues while firing guns.
Yeah, one of the guys said, "I've been shooting guns since I was 8, started with a 22, went to hunting rifles, and my hearing's impaired because of it. And I would be much better off if I would have had a
You
silencer."
gotta be fucking kidding me. I thought
It's
you were exaggerating. That's why I
it's
say I
called
love the way you're presenting this, because I
it,
thought you
it,
were kidding.
I gave it a little bit of extra, but it's literally called the Hearing Protection Act.
Oh
That
my god. Whole, wow. So the fact that guns are used to kill people means nothing, but don't fuck with somebody's don't ear fuck them.
yeah, yeah, I mean, you know, murders, that thing, that's kind of
Talk
gross.
about missing the mark. See what I did there? Talk about missing the fucking target on this one. Holy shit.
Yeah, so the bill that they've introduced would waive the $200 fee and the months of waiting while you get approved. Right now, you have to get approved from the ATF,
Yeah, and I think
Alcohol, Tobacco,
California
and
and
Firearms.
certain liberal states with with people trying to pass sensible gun regulations, I think they're completely outlawed. At least last time
I,
I looked, they were.
yeah, I had the same feeling. But so not only would this, make it much, much easier and cheaper to get it, if you've paid the $200 in the last, I think, 5 years that this law's been in place, you'll get a refund from the government.
They're refunding that.
Yeah, they'll send it back to you.
I'm
So I mean, like, this is fiscal conservatism right here. They're like, you know what? Let's pay these guys back for that. It's protecting their hearing, for God's sakes. So at least we're in the safe arms of the GOP on
you
this
know,
one.
it's times like this when I'm quiet that I wish we were. I wish this was a visual type podcast where people can actually see the expression on my face.
Oh yeah.
You sure you did your research correctly and you didn't get this from like BuzzFeed or something?
I'm positive.
Just
I
I hate
read
to.
the
I
quote.
don't. I want to question your methods and ethics here, but are you
I
sure?
I I I would take this to the bank. This is what we got here. They're looking out for us. The Hearing Protection Act. I saw the guy give the speech about how he's been shooting guns since he was a kid, and his hearing's impaired, and he would be so much better off in life if he had just been allowed to use silencers.
Whatever. Okay. Fine.
Hey,
All right.
I'm just
Mo-
reporting the news.
Jesus Christ. All right. Moving on to Trump. So we said we were going to get into uh, 1/4 of our First Amendment being the freedom of press. So, well, everybody heard what Donald Trump had to say to CNN most recently, and we'll get more in depth in that shortly. But three Trump officials have come out and said that that Trump is likely to remove the press from their current place in the White House. They have their own office for the most part, and then obviously they have the press room where the press secretary delivers speeches or whatnot. So they're not going to. So when I say remove them from the White House, they're debating about removing them from the actual White House and relocating them to some old executive offices that nobody's using that's still on White House grounds. But this is still a problem. One of the unnamed sources told Esquire magazine, "I want him out," and this is due to the media's treatment to Donald Trump ever since he said he was going to run for president. And at first, with what I just told you, Esquire magazine, three people, I give you an unnamed source, kind of sounds like we may be making this up until you can actually hear Reince Priebus, his new right-hand man, basically, or left-hand man after his son-in-law Jared Kushner. Reince Priebus told Hugh Hewitt on his radio show that he thinks that relocating the press will be a good thing because it'll allow all these other press representatives to now take part in press conferences and asking questions and shit like that. Here's my question, though. Who do you think these people are going to be, other than Breitbart? Because we know it's not going to be BuzzFeed.
I mean, that's the thing, right? As much shit as we talk about CNN and MSNBC and the mainstream media, I mean, one thing I can't deny is they're there.
Right.
They are there. They're asking questions. Their questions might not be the most pointed or the questions that we would ask, but I mean, they're there. And just the fact that he wants to change that, I mean, like you said, we saw the interaction he had with CNN. I mean, that honestly, it was disturbing for me to watch.
Well, as we get into it, we have kind of a montage of Donald Trump, just in case everybody forgot. Here's a montage of how Donald Trump has treated the press ever since this whole thing happened.
I don't know what I said. I don't remember. He's going like, I don't remember. Maybe that's what I said. Excuse me, sit down. You weren't called. Sit down. Sit down. Sit down. Go ahead. No, you don't. You haven't been called. Go back to Univision.
You could see there was blood coming out of her eyes, blood coming out of her wherever. She was off base.
As far as BuzzFeed, which is a failing pile of garbage, writing it, I think they're going to suffer the consequences. They already are. And as far as CNN going out of their way to build it up, you're attacking us. Can you give us a question? No, Mr. President-elect. Go ahead. Mr. President-elect, since you are attacking our news organization, can you give us a chance? You are attacking our news organization. Can you give us a chance to ask a question, sir?
Go ahead.
Sir, can you state, Mr. President-elect, can you state categorically, Mr. President-elect, can you give us a question? You're attacking us. Can you give us a question? Can you give us a question?
I'm not going to give you a question.
Can you state categorically?
You are fake news.
Sir,
Go ahead.
can you state categorically that nobody... No, Mr. President-elect, that's not appropriate.
All right, so we have we have the Jorge Ramos comment in there, which happened early on. We have him mocking the disabled reporter. We have obviously the CNN one that just took place recently. I mean, it's just, this is the beginning. I try not to. I don't like sounding conspiracy theorist, but here's what I will say. If your plan is to discredit third party, as much, they're barely third party. They're third party by title, especially Fox and NBC and shit like that. But if you want to rid yourself of third party news outlets and put forward a state ran news outlet like they have in North Korea, all I'm saying is what Donald Trump is doing is a step in that direction. So people can debate whether or not he's that crazy or that much of a dictator, whatever. This is a step in that direction. And the thing is I don't trust Donald Trump to basically stick his finger in the apple pie without wanting to stick his dick in it next. Make sense?
Well, yeah, it did until that. But yeah, sure. No, it's an over. I mean, it's part of his broad theme. It's very clear that he wants to control what's said about him. I mean, that's been clear from the beginning. And the part about this that is weird is really the press maybe won him the presidency. I mean, all the free air that he was getting and all this. I mean, yeah, he gets asked tough questions, but look at the guy. He's a fucking clown. How would you not ask a clown, why do you have a red nose? Or, what the fuck is up with that
speaking
hair?
of red, another comment that was in there was, blood coming out of her eyes, out of her wherever, about Megyn Kelly.
It's just the CNN one, like I said, really disturbed me when you see he's just basically shutting them down, saying, I'm not going to answer your question. I'm not even going to listen to your question. And then the way he talks to people, like, sit down. You're being rude. Sit down. I honestly, if somebody talked to me like that, I would go over there and slap that.
What do you say? Go back to Univision, right? Is what he told Ramos.
That's what he told George Ramos. But even with CNN, it was the exact same. He gets to the exact same point where it's his, like, you're fired kind of mentality comes in. And he's lucky, in my opinion, that he's been protected his whole life with his money, because
Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I would just in the worlds that I've been in, if somebody talks to somebody else like that,
they were fighting words.
Yeah,
and that's the thing. So back in our pre-nonviolent days, I mean, here's what I don't get. I mean, there's. I think it was the Daily Show or somebody made a joke about this over the last week about blue collar people saying that Trump relates to and understands the real American worker, and then they show a picture of little Baron on a tiger and this with Donald and Ivanka jumping up and down on his lap, use your imagination, all that shit. Here's what I don't get. The Republicans view themselves as not pussies. They're manly men. That's the way they look at it. Manly men in flannel shirts who drink beer and work hard and try to support their family and brag about the good old days when lynching was perfectly acceptable. Those types of things. All right, not all Republicans, but still. How is it that they look at this guy and they don't also wish that Trump got the shit kicked out of him when he was growing up? Preppy little rich, snot-nosed little fucker. Like, how do they not want his ass? How do they look at him and see tough? The man was born in a tie.
That's a great point, and especially even people from the South, right? You think like this Yankee from New York who's born with a silver spoon in his mouth. I mean, that's really the epitome. That's the people that they're supposed to hate.
Right.
I mean, and even his his New York values, his being okay with abortion, being okay with gay right, all those things. It is definitely. I mean, it's the biggest, to me, like con job in history that he was able to convince all these people I'm one of you, and it's just like
right.
When you sit back and look at it, you're like, how the
I've
fuck
never
is-
taken a picture with an eagle or a tiger. I'm sorry, it's never happened. Even one of those mechanical tigers that you ride on as a kid. Like my mom our moms rather couldn't afford fucking Power Wheels. Like
how many wives have you ordered from Russia?
Yeah, nope, never happened. I haven't done that either. But the bigger point here, I mean, getting back to Trump and the media is the bigger point is just to pay attention because like I said, we can debate whether or not this is his end game all we want, but this is a step in that direction. When you start discrediting media, and I'm cool discrediting media. I'm totally fine with that. Call them out. But you know what? For being somebody that won the election on racism and xenophobia and gender prejudices and stuff like that, of course. But also winning it on fake news. Don't come out so pissed off when people release that they got sources that say you like being pissed on by Russian hookers. Because you're the man of gold. I'm sure his shower is gold in his house. So anyway, we'll continue to monitor this, but everybody needs to watch this very closely because once CNN is done, he's going to move to NBC or he's going to move to Fox, and I would love nothing more than to watch Fox die. The problem is I think I don't think any of them are safe.
Not like this, and
no, not like this. Right, it's going to be a domino effect.
This is at least like you said, be alarmed because it's. I mean, there's no way that this is the first step in something good. This is
a
right. Bad precedent, and we'll see how it goes going forward.
Right. So let's get into another feud that Trump's got going on right now. You mentioned him earlier, John Lewis. So just for people that maybe not know John Lewis, I mean he was honored last year by Obama for his work in civil rights. But I'm going to go through some quick facts about him, and we'll get into what happened. So John Lewis is a representative for Georgia's 5th District. He's been there since 1987. He's been reelected 14 times since then. He was a March on Washington organizer in 1963. He was also, at the age of, in his early 20s, he was the chairman of the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, which was a branch of the Civil Rights Movement. He was a Presidential Medal of Freedom Award recipient. He was part of the sit-in campaign in Nashville, Tennessee. He marched with Martin Luther King into Selma and is part of the famous picture of the anniversary that we just recently had, locking arms with Michelle and Barack and everybody else that went there to symbolize the march. He suffered numerous assaults, like some crazy stuff. One of them is he was in a bus outside of Birmingham, Alabama, that was firebombed by the Ku Klux Klan. So I mean, this guy.
I mean, he had his skull fractured.
He had
right?
his skull fractured. I think that was in Selma.
In Selma, yeah, there's the famous picture of him. I mean, there's a picture of him actually, right. The cop with the club over his head, getting ready to smack him. I mean,
this guy is
denying.
he has led a life that not him alone by any means, but leading portions of people towards the same goal that is responsible for the positive social policies and acceptance of different cultures that we have nowadays. And he has the awards, the jail time, and the wounds to show for it. And being reelected 14 times is it's not an easy thing to do. So let's take into account that You and I are recording this on MLK Day, and let's take into let's take into account the significance of this weekend. After John Lewis was asked about Donald Trump, he said he's not a legitimate president. He doesn't view him that way, and a lot of people don't. A lot of people, Robert Reich is constantly. I mean, huge kudos to Robert Reich. That guy is on it every damn day, posting like 6 things about Trump that people need to know. But one of his campaigns that he's leading is not to normalize what Trump is doing. So, in a way, John Lewis made a comment that's right along with that. And this piece of shit couldn't help himself as normal. And he tweeted out that John Lewis should focus on his district and the burning and crime in the inner cities. So this kind of goes back to Donald Trump saying in a debate that people get shot every day. And I mean, gun violence in Chicago is really bad, but basically saying that if you're black in America, you live in hell. Actually, I think that's a direct quote from him. And this kind of goes back to that. So he's basically telling John Lewis, like, you have your own problems. You didn't do a good enough job your entire life's work. And I'm going to tell you this on the anniversary of the guy that led you. That you didn't do a good enough job because blacks are still living in hell in this country. Maybe you should focus on that and not me.
Yeah, I mean, just the pettiness of this guy is amazing, and he's gonna be president. So,
Unfortunately, but
yeah.
I mean, one little good thing that came across with this. The Washington Post stated that John Lewis's his book Walking with the Wind, a memoir of the movement, sold out on Amazon, and people right now are making money by selling the used copies, which are currently running for $100. So, in a way, I hope this backfires on Trump a bit to the extent that people are going, wait, why is everybody pissed off? Who the hell's John Lewis? And then you go discover who this guy actually was, and what him and many others were responsible for, and what he's still responsible for contributing to the cultural alignment and climate in this country.
Yeah, he did take a unnecessary shot at Bernie, but I still do like John Lewis.
Yeah, I mean, again though, I mean, it's okay to. And Bernie says this, and so does Obama. It's okay to differ in opinion and shit like that. But I mean, on these grounds, on what we're talking about, shut the fuck up, Donald. But speaking of presidents, this will be our last show with sitting Barack Obama. What do you got? What do you got on good old Barry?
I touched a little bit on my personal story last weekend. I followed Barack Obama for the last 12 years, and as a person, I think he's amazing. His personality, in the position he's in, I think it's amazing. He's funny, he's sincere. He's a great speaker.
Awesome speaker.
I'm gonna definitely not just because of Trump. I'm gonna miss listening to Obama's speeches, and like it's personal for me. He's been a very important person, I guess, in my life, and I'll definitely miss him. I have some of his accomplishments, some of the major ones. I mean, there's been a lot. I have some of them here that we'll kind of go over, and. To be honest, when I was making up this list, I had to stop and think like, okay, this is an accomplishment for sure, but for how long? In the next 4 years, is this going to be, taken away? But starting off with ending the recession in 2008, he passed a huge stimulus package. I think $787 billion, I want to say. I mean, obviously it was huge, but that's what it took. It jump-started the economy, got the auto industry back, the American auto industry back on its feet, and I mean, since then we really haven't turned back too much as far as economies. One thing, I guess, on that, he's been the second best job creator. I think Bill Clinton was the number one. I don't know if part of that was for the .com boom, but um, this statistic really jumped out. So under Bush, the total amount of jobs created was negative 356,000.
Now I want to point out something. When you're calling him a good job creator, um, you're not pulling from the unemployment stats, which Republicans and people on the right typically will go, well, people aren't working anymore. Like, we're strictly talking about job creation.
Yeah, this is just job creation. I could have put unemployment on there because it's definitely dropped during his
So
tenure, but
it was at around 9%, right? And it's at 4.9 now.
yeah,
But I mean,
you know
people are gonna argue
that's
and
unofficial number. Yeah,
whatever.
but yeah, but this is just on jobs created. So Bush lost 356,000. President Obama in the last 8 years gained 1.74 million jobs. So just to show you the stark difference, right there, that's pretty big. So the next one, obviously, passed healthcare reform. This is one of the ones that's in jeopardy. Um, you know, a lot of presidents going back have tried to do something on healthcare. Obama really focused in on it, and even though it wasn't, you know, what progressives wanted all the way, definitely did a lot of good things, um, and brought insurance to millions of people, really. And as you know, as we go through Congress right now, and they're trying to repeal or replace or whatever, there's definitely some key aspects in there that they just have to keep up. Otherwise, you know, a lot of people are going to die.
Yeah, and yeah, honestly, I think he's alluded to it on the show a few times, but I'll just say, you know, Nick's one of those people. The other co-host that we have for the show, you know, Nick's one of those people that pre-existing conditions it's not huge for it's not, you know, a big deal to him. It's a life or death deal with him. And actually, yeah, he talked about it last week when he had open heart surgery and they replaced his heart with a pig snout or pig anus or something. But and one more time, I think we said this last week or the week before, but if you or somebody you know is one of the people out there that says good riddance to the Republicans repealing Obamacare and they're happy because they got the Affordable Care Act, please remind them that that is the same goddamn thing.
Okay, so a couple other things. In 2010, he gave a payroll tax cut of 120 billion dollars to the working class. Unfortunately, that was also stacked up next to the Bush tax cut extension, so that came together. But we did get a tax cut from there, the working people, a payroll tax. Um, May 1st, 2011, he made the decision to go after and kill Bin Laden. So that one, I mean, really was a tough. I mean, I remember the press conference and all the, you know, the information coming after, and it was a tough call, I think, and you know, it showed that he has the will to, you know, make tough calls. He also ended the Iraq War, and the last troops came out in 2011. That one is also a question mark. Who knows? We have troops there right now, although they're not ground troops. They're advisors. That's a little mess too. The
Just a little.
nuclear, yeah, the nuclear agreement with Iran, which, I mean, that one, I almost didn't put it on just because of incidents lately. You know, we didn't bring it up in the news, but we actually fired warning shots at Iranian ships last week. So that's tumultuous area as well. But the agreement, you know, I went through and read. I forgot how many pages. It was
Yeah.
a snooze fest. But and in general, you know, it did some good things to protect our long term interest, and I got to give them credit for that. They signed the International Climate Change Agreement. So far, the U.S. and China, the two biggest greenhouse emitters, have signed on to it, and we're trying to get other countries to go along. Deficit spending, the stimulus package added huge amounts of debt to us. I think 3.8 trillion. Um, but if you look at deficit spending, which is each year how much we're spending in the red, which I mean, obviously that's not a good thing in itself, but it's definitely dropped by huge amounts each year. So props to him on that. A lot of people, talk about how much he's added to the debt. It's really not fair when you have to look at the deficit and all that, and he's done a good job of cutting how much we goes out every year.
Right.
And the last thing is he's really restored America's image around the world. That one again, obviously, is to be determined on how long that stays. But recovering from Bush's presidency, where we kind of said we're going to war with Iraq regardless of what the world thinks, I think he did a good job of reaching out and making our image, more what it should be, more diplomatic and peaceful.
Yeah, agreed. It's man, I'd have felt, not bad, but I'd have missed him no matter what, because the world just seems more stable with him there, and I feel like we've taken that for granted for 8 years, and we probably enjoyed it a little too much for how unstable it was under Bush. But I would have felt that way, but I would have felt more confident if Bernie would have been in there, or even Hillary would have been in there, and now it's like fucking hold on for the ride. But anyway,
And
that
sorry, the last thing, just not a single scandal either.
Oh yeah, there is that too. There's all the made up ones, all the bullshit
Yeah.
ones. But yeah,
Plenty of bullshit ones. But I mean, really, when you think about it, Joe Biden didn't shoot anybody in the face, or
no reporter threw a shoe at Obama's head. Obama didn't almost die choking on a pretzel. Yeah, that was it was a very good run. So, Mr. President, we salute you. Thank you for your service for 8 years, and I really hope he wasn't joking about sticking around, and hopefully doing what Sanders has been doing and staying in the public eye and trying to hold this new administration accountable the best way he can. So anyway, can we get through the next 4 years, Mr. Obama? Yes, we can. So that concludes our first news show. Stay tuned later on this week when we put out our Standing for Reason podcast show. So this has been Mike and Alex with the Age of Reason podcast, where we are not for the faint of thought. We will see you guys hopefully next time, provided he doesn't fire off nukes on day one. So hopefully we'll see you then.